Hello viewers, it's another Sunday and you are welcome to Revelations. My name is Maame Grace and I am your host. Today we are discussing fornication and polygamy in marriages. I welcome you once again to the show. I introduce my guests. I have beautiful guests here today. Dr. Lawrence Tetteh. Papa, I welcome you to Revelations.
Thank you.
Father Bright is here again. Father, I welcome you.
Thank you.
Mama Charlotte is here. You remember her quote, right? Divorce is cancelled. I know you remember. Mama Charlotte, welcome to Revelations once again. And I have Apostle Donko is also on the set. Papa, welcome.
Thank you.
I welcome you to Revelations. It's another beautiful episode. We are discussing fornication. Doctor, please, what is fornication?
Fornication is sex, romance, and an act of love outside of the marriage vow. And it's something that the Bible really talks heavily against. I think in modern days, people have taken it for granted. And so it has become a lifestyle that does not really conform to biblical principles. Have the sanctity of marriage, going outside of the marital covenant is fornication.
Okay. Apostle Donko, what is fornication?
Fornication is something you are doing against God. That
against God?
Of course. That God does not allow it in the church, especially when you are not married. And so when I am to have sex with somebody I'm not married to, that is fornication. You are polluting your spirit, man. And that means that the Spirit of God doesn't approve of it. He doesn't like it. That is fornication.
Ma Charlotte, a German boy a day.
Don't worry. Normally, you won't worry because sex is for just married couples. So the moment you're not married and you have sex, it's fornication, and it's wrong. It's a sin. So
I don't know a German boy. So we won't worry. You now you be that.
I said we will worry. But it was after the Yurechi.
Or Sanfani.
That is it.
I don't know a German. Father, what is fornication?
Fornication, I mean, as put by my colleagues, is sex outside marriage. I mean, marriage sex is reserved for married couple. It's a consummation of the relationship. Odona mo wono mo born the poor ewo enemo. And say mo nro ho na mo yes ade na ko say fornication and I say impromptu say the yeta kan. Enti empama gra ban ba my year and I say romance amount for year woni ho akwan say wo ye dubo say ye amamere mu krampo no maybe as I say I'm sakofom your bragro until then no kese wuntimi enko no ba mankoda okokro mama ye wodipo ni nyina ye ho se ne ye mi se unu ye nti esiesie wonti wo ba kwa ewo ma sana akoda ko say watwempa na say why bone na me that's what it stands for. It be say ye so be ekonyin ansana yabro no bra ekese wabomu so pa aha de gina kire se impo efiri ankasa amamre mu no empama gwana sabana bema ennemu a eye ansana ware eba no yebu anichie wo
nti eno na ma eye adwamambo nti doctor please say obi any obi wa sorry ho. They are living together, they are not married, they have 3 kids. They've almost tenase beye mfie du nwotwe mfie duonu omo te ho so omo nye omo ho ade ne ho ade enso omo ba sorry one na tena faithfully omo aye ni ama wo asisi dan eno no ye dan eno nso so ye beye ne se ye beka ne sen.
I think to begin with, understanding the act of marriage is very important. Marriage is a miracle.
It's a miracle.
Marriage is a miracle.
You are watching Revelation, so another quote.
Marriage.
Dr. Lawrence Tetteh or say marriage is a miracle. Which are 2 phones so now the Nidia Bass and I will share. Marriage is a miracle.
Now let me explain to you why marriage is a miracle. I'll give a typical example of my home. I come from a family of 9 children. My wife, Black, comes from a family of 4 children. We were brought up from different angles. She went to England and went to school in England. I hustled through Ghana before getting scholarship through Hungary, University of Budapest, before going to London School of Economics, before finally meeting Barbara in the University of London in London. We are 2 different things. The things that I get excited about doesn't get excited about. Barbara doesn't get excited. If I give you a typical example, I get excited in going to Buckingham Palace. Barbara sleeps when it's about Buckingham Palace. Let's not be, and I will call anyone. How many times do you want us to go there? There are two different people. So even that alone, in order for people to live from different homes, marriage is a miracle. And it's only God can fix miracles. That is why most people start well, but don't end well. And I can tell you, after 30 years of marriage, I can tell you marriage is a miracle. It's just a grace of God. And so, what makes that? That comes back to the question. A lot of people entered into this covenant without the understanding we have here today. Most people were not born again. They were not Christian-minded. They were traditional-minded. And then they got into the covenant. So they've started having children already. They're already in the church. They rectify it. There's something called blessing of the marriage. Most people come back for the marriage to be blessed, so that God's blessing comes upon the marriage. And so that one, it's understandable. But if you are born again already, and you have the knowledge of Christ, and you have a relationship with God, you have to be mindful. Like Father Bright rightly said, the reason why people go to the depot and all those rituals is to prepare our young ladies to wait until the right time when they get married. And the truth is that when people get into fornication, they don't hurt anybody. They hurt themselves. Their relationship with God is broken, and they themselves also become victims. It breaks trust, it breaks confidence, it breaks a lot of things. So there's no way you can stand and say fornication is right. Even morally, not being right is bad, let alone the spiritual aspect. It opens the door for many things to come in. And that is why we should help people who are already have had instances where most people have come our way, and we have to re-bless their marriages because they were there, they started from a wrong note, and they want to come back to the right thing.
Beautiful. Madam Charlotte, Maame bisa we. Omo ankwala efri sa ade we mu ba no. Nkwala omo free like cohabiting. Omo nkwala efi mu ba no. Omo insunsu anso subi wo ha ebeko omo so ana.
You know, because also papa ne maame na worry no. Spiritually there's something wrong with it. Even physically there's something wrong with it. As Papa can, you know what is not right is not right. So if those kids don't get up and make decisions that what happened to my father and my mother, I don't want to go through the same thing. I want to start right. They can start right. But easy. It is so dear. No matter what you do now, it's either it's good or it's bad. You will face it. So if it was not start on a good note, then I have become even said they're too Maame what happened to my mother happened to me. And I didn't know until it happened to me before I realized that no. We need to get up and start making things right. So when you know say if it's not right, you pray against it and work towards it. So you make sure you do it right. And it's a decision you need to take. And it's not easy. But it's just so.
Okay, Mpacho, Apostle, Pacho, Obia wawari, okay? Na wejai, wawari na wejai, why divorced? What's our call ware fufro? A radianim, and then so a dramambo. And I know they are okay. Why divorced? And a wako ware will be fufro. I know what dear. And no, where do we place it?
The kind. So divorce thing, they should not be entertained. We should not accept it in our society, especially as Christians. Like I quoted, Moses wrote and said, because of the stubbornness of your hearts, your mom will let you, but from the beginning it was not so. And so God doesn't like the divorce thing. The Paul said that when you divorce, you are not permitted to marry. Paul was trying to say that just to create an environment for people to understand that marriage, divorce thing, it's not accepted. So Paul said, who divorce you are not permitted to marry again. That is what Paul said. Nevertheless, you must understand that at the end of the film, I was someone paint you now if you don't work on yourself well, you can meet it again and even make it worse.
So where do we place that? Is that also fornication?
No, we were divorced and but you must understand that when you divorce, it's not for free.
And so where
God
do
will not
we
be
place
happy.
that marriage?
Where we will place it, I cannot judge it. It's only God who will judge it. With divorce, God is not happy. So you see, when God is not happy with something, you must understand where you stand. You
Father, so be jai ne yere. Na okoware oba fufuro. Ne yere ne tiasia. Or not sa marriage, and where do we place it?
And only will be when any payment yakabo mono will be intimate him. So I worry now was saying what be odia Roma so yeah the because it's a previous bond between a man and a woman. If that previous bond is still there, how do you go for a second bond? So it doesn't happen. And so we have a situation where we have what we call notorious concubinage. Some in the bus or mummy ame any better and so they can decide even change church, no co baby. And yeah, until you are there, they come. We are now want to come and be in this church. But of course, probably they are running from. And don't forget, people can also take their husbands or wives out in order to go and marry somebody. But some worry person C, but be them in one main penny view. And we say accept death. And people can find out any way through. Until we have to go through investigation, what they call prenuptial investigation. You go through, you call witnesses, you find out exactly where they are coming from. And that's what we're paying. What occasion the separation or the divorce. We have to look at that. And sometimes we try not to entertain divorce. But where it becomes very difficult, that's called separation, temporary separation, not the divorce.
So nipa ni jai no ko ware dia say yes separation bi
But another we won't intend. I has to go through the process to find out certain elements must be clear. For instance, ya should be amawari will be. Except for the word go on the free will is very, very important. If that was why, and if it is able, we come to the discussion and see we have experts who sit on the marriage and all that. Any baby I say we on will come and say that many cases they say I want to go back to my husband, I want to go back to my wife. If we can have time for most of this relationship, I'm sure they will get back.
Okay, doctor. Obi jai ne yere na okowari be obi fofora wetia Bible na se ogina baby as a nyame nipa yen dimoti no ana yenye ne den.
The Bible says in Psalm 11 verse 3 that if the foundations have been destroyed, what can the righteous do? The foundation of the marriage is important. The basis on which you got married. Those of us who married from the church, we went through counseling. I think we had understanding of the marriage. So even if there's an issue, it is based on the word of God that you rectify those issues. Like I said earlier, marrying itself is not a visa to torment another person. It's not a passport to destroy somebody's home. Most people have taken advantage, and both men and women, thinking that once I'm married and the vow has been done, till death do we part.
Do what I want.
And so a lot of people are hurting today in homes. And those of us who are marriage counselors, you sit with certain people and you know that this marriage sometimes is better it goes. Trust me, and sometimes we have to call a spade a spade. That whole issue, that philosophy about never till death do we part, sometimes somebody's dying. I'll give you a typical example here in Ghana. The woman has an ability that when she gets married, she'll take every cloth from the man's wardrobe and burn it all. Kuma, Ghana, yeah. Burn it all. Burn everything the man has. And sometimes his shoes and everything is upset. By the time he comes back, he's burnt everything. Not once, not twice. She gets upset and she breaks videos, break TVs, break this in the house. That is madness. For how long can you tolerate that? Get upset and want to beat the man every day. I sit here today and God forbid, I would not raise my hand once over Barbara. I don't think it's right. But I cannot sit down for her to beat me. Don't pray. I'm not agree. No.
And the other day.
I've never done something before. But I cannot see myself. But then he slapped me. It's not so. Sometimes we have to be realistic with what we call. And sometimes, in order for you to even avoid going to prison, it's better. You understand? And this thing I'm saying, I know is a very controversial statement I've made.
Sir. This woman said,
why?
I will stand by that. That nonsense must stop. Where most ladies have taken advantage of the men And so it's making the men not live right. It's not making them live right. Because what it does is that you are in the house, you are wearing the ring, but outside he's having fun. And then people don't really live right with God. So we have a responsibility. We have to serve God genuinely, properly, get connected to God. So all these things, we can rectify it.
Madam Charlotte, Mpacho saw it. I didn't know worker. Ayo dia. Na say me na your question. Yanko.
No.
You don't have the platform.
Okay.
Madam Charlotte time.
No.
Obefa lawyer.
Me fa lawyer.
Okay.
Of a lawyer.
No, we are not trauma.
Okay.
And no, you don't have that ability.
The fact is that what can be the foundation. That is the key. Foundation. So if the foundation is right, we say if a woman or this anger issue or senema, if the man that was going to marry this lady or such year, you will know this is who she is. Then you assess yourself if you can live with the person with this anger. One assess it. Now we rush into the marriage. The consequences, you blame yourself for it. See, it's a covenant you are making before God. Don't just jump and run into it because the papa, despot and also be your archbishop. So you think said before the father is archbishop, you'll be saved. The father is archbishop, the son is not archbishop. We should understand this. He may be archbishop, but our character trace be you need to get that information and ask yourself if you can deal with it. If you can't, stay up. Mami, come from one example. When I married my husband, me couldn't find a son come, but my pay me couldn't go pay. I'm a sample of it because I had anger issue. My husband searched before. It's me and he knew who I was. He was able to handle me. I'm still married to him. And it's the grace. That's what I'm saying. It's the grace. Because when I got angry, I was expecting him to talk. He was not talking. He's the quiet type that will be looking at me. Yes, Papa.
I agree with you, but I think we are missing a link.
Yes, Papa.
Nobody is God's grandchild. Nobody is God's grandchild.
You are watching Revelations. Nobody is God's grandchild.
Children of God.
Yes.
How death can you search? It's a miracle. And as I started by saying that, it's just a grace of God that you and I are married.
That's it.
Maybe I might not touch Barbara physically, I'll do something, but maybe I have an attitude. In fact, to give you a typical example, like my mother was called in 1994, I remember very well. Barbara called my mother from London, where we live together, that she should come and see my socks is on the pillow, my this is on this. This Barbara can't understand. Say, human being, why would I be doing
like
that? So she called my mother, Grandma, come and see what Nene is done here. He's getting stressed out. But my mother said, oh, Nene, even me, when she come to my room here, he put socks here. My mother was smart enough to say, he put singlet here, he put there. So she took the phone, put it in, and came Nene. So you do it to Grandma to when you go. And that is how my mother solved the problem.
You would think it's a normal something, but it was hurting her.
So what I keep saying is that it doesn't matter how much of search we do. Sweetheart, Mama Charlotte, you and I, it is the grace of God that is keeping us in marriage.
Yeah.
You can do all the search, and the truth is that counseling is nothing. Counseling in the marriage.
When you meet the reality, you can forget about it.
Counseling in the marriage, what we go through counseling when we are in love. And so anything the counselor is saying makes sense and we accept. But when you are faced with the reality, then you realize that it is not a counseling
The real
matter.
examination.
So we should always believe God for that sanctity of God's miracle. Because how much of such can you be? There are characters that you can be hidden from you until the day you get into the place you realize that. I'll give you a typical example of people who snore. If you marry the kind of way I married, you don't even know the woman, you don't know where she is, you don't know how she sleeps, you don't know what her excitement is, and then you finish the counseling, you come to the first time, and you realize that this is what happens. You'll be surprised, little things. I had a problem with Barbara. And I'm not ashamed to say this publicly that I couldn't believe that Barbara can spend over 1 hour in bathroom. What is she doing? What? You go to bath, you brush your teeth, you shave if you're a man, and you bath. If you want to go to number 2, the loo, you do it. How can you spend more than 1 hour in the bathroom? This was an issue. Then I realized later on that it's because we had come from different backgrounds. Where she grew up, every room has bath and toilet.
You can do whatever you want and come out at your own time. Obi pentamaba.
We want to mokwaya and mokwaba. So we're different people, and this became an issue. Where I was like, she's there, we have to go to church, and she's spending all this time. And then when she comes out, so me no feel a bathroom man again. This was an issue. So some of them you think, oh, you know everything, but at the end of the day, let's believe God for His miracle, because all these things we are all talking about, and I heard people like Mama Charlotte and others who can talk and encourage the woman and let them have apostle and so forth, them all of us. But at the end of the day, the God factor is important. It's listening to us like this. Don't leave God out of your marriage.
So phobia, e jaya ware, na wako ware fufuro. Yenye ne de yendi moti no. Where do we place this person? On all the Bible, ono no ye counseling the way we are seeing now. Ono no blessing all the marriages, but woo. And we jai, and na wako ware fufuro. And he ni emfa nento.
Like Father said, Sabi, you to me sorry, I say we divorce, and wako wa devil front ye demote no. Sabi ye hwehwemu, ye be head the see the buy. Now me connect it back to the divorce issue where Dr. Charlotte said divorce,
cancelled.
Yes, it's cancelled. No, and then our Father is trying to explain a few things. You know, we keep saying that God hates divorce, and it's true. God doesn't like it. It's very true. But for example, we are to what threatening so beku, like Daddy said, obayi ko kwenye. Debi o some in between. Debi a meko fie na kosi ahye me nioma. Meko bia no ahye me nioma. Meko bia no ahye waye ba ko mienu miense nine or papa or maame. I will not just get up and say me divorce without informing the family.
Nti say why ye nioma ni nyina na anye ye no we divorce na eno we di fufuro bia na anye divorce na.
Divorce na.
So eno no where
Thank
do you place it?
Nti where do you place it as in?
Is it fornication? No,
fornication.
Fornication is something you discuss.
Fornication doesn't come here. Sasabe, we divorce and wako wade for.
And no,
the divorce the be fornication. Now the divorce, no, sabi you began to say the right way. And
what is the right way of divorce?
Right way is sabi what threaten me, I'm under threat to be killed by my wife.
Is it biblical? That what threatening means. I am not saying that justify divorce here.
Yes.
But the way you people were saying that yen cancel like we
yes. No, God.
Say so right now, no, this is the situation. Okay. The reason I'm asking you, sister, who jai sa ware no, who jaya one thing.
Okay.
And so we jai to me ko ware for we jai na wako ware for. I'm asking where we should place.
So let's start from then the buyer ma wadi jai buyer. Oba newu otiase. Yemi you me no yawade. Now the biam sorry.
So to me friend divorce. And I'm
me bacho. So we no me no yawade. Na the biam bo. Na nyame ya adom na awade no so ntumi nwade biem na wujaye na warrior is it for the kitchen? No.
You said it on this platform that's obowa money separation. You said it.
So that is what we start divorce from. Most of the time when you do separation, to your surprise. To your surprise. No, I'm not changing it. I'm saying the same thing. Most of the time, divorce doesn't just start. You stand up, you go to court and say, I'm divorcing. Family comes in. One quite fast your engagement. You go through almost the same process.
You've done all the doings. It didn't work. In a way, jai. We jai one thing. So we jai our area.
We can still call it fornication.
And I was
we leave it
Bible
to
God.
Bible Cassetiana. What I'm going to say is that we can't call it fornication.
What do you call it?
We don't have any answer to this one. That fornication or adultery. Well, fornication or adultery.
One minute, doctor. Pacho, you heard him. Or say main divorce, but you can give separation. That was the initial discussion. Right now, no, you heard everything that he said. Say, oh bro, who bet me? I could go through. Why do all the doings? It didn't work out. And I wait, and I walk worry baby. See, you need at the master worry. You would be the master worry.
You see, it is not about whether it has done or it has not done. It's a deed. The question now, you are committing him to call a name. And it's on TV.
You can't call a name.
You call a name. There are people watching who are analyzing everything we are saying now. What is not good is not good.
Don't divorce.
You understand? Don't divorce. I will not divorce you. But don't put a situation in my life. Let me tell you something that has happened last week. A pastor in Accra. Some of these things, I'm not saying things in London where I live, pastor in Accra. A young pastor. His wife beats him virtually every weekend. Physically. Sometimes when he comes to me, he has plaster here, he has plaster here. I say, Bema, how long will you be beaten like this? He said, he has decided that he won't go back to the house to be beaten again. Why is he being beaten? He's being beaten because he's praying too much in the house. Now, some of these things
praying
too much in the house. So it's not being beaten because he went to chase another lady. He's not being beaten because he's gone home and he didn't out and he didn't come home early. It's not being beaten. I know that person is even watching me now.
So my son just want to know divorce.
So
the divorce is so important to you.
No,
we don't have names for some things. Society and community is watching us. So
where we come now is that let us all work our salvation with fear and trembling. So we don't kick against the pricks of God. Because what is happening now is that we become too legalistic and we leave the God factor. How can a woman be beating the man every day? I will not be able to stand up. I can tell you that I'm happy I'm on TV. I can expect Barbara beat me. If you beat me today, you won't beat me tomorrow.
What will you do?
You won't beat me again. If you beat me today,
because you are praying too much.
You won't beat me tomorrow.
Because
I will not beat you. So why do you beat me?
This one didn't beat the wife. He prayed.
Yes. So he was praying. So if he's praying, you don't like it. Many times, the person who prays and make noise in my house is Barbara. I'll tell her sometimes, Barbara, I beg you, I want to sleep small. She will leave me to go to another place to go and pray. If the prayer is taking beating, so many things, people have taken advantage of the God factor in marriage. And they become legalistic without realizing that we are dealing with emotions. And emotions have no intellect.
Okay, what do we do to stop fornication in church?
See, no matter how many hours you preach, and no matter what you are saying to the people, individually, they must understand God, and they must know God for themselves. We are Christian, our 5 years is so crying. You must be afraid of fornication. It kills your spirituality. It doesn't allow you to pray. Daddy said something from the beginning. He said, it allows demons and a lot of things to enter into your life. I've been in the church and I was fornicating. And look, when you fornicate, you can't even pray. Even praise and worship, you can't do it well. If you sing, you can't sing from the spirit.
Why a tefu not?
When you do, even when you raise your voice, you want to pray, something tells you your prayer will not go. It will not go, Jayu. So in the church, we can't force people not to fornicate. The only thing men of God can do is to preach to them and tell them, look, you need to be pure for God, stay for God, and work out your salvation with fear. You understand? So for me in the church, you can't force anybody to say, don't fornicate. But I believe that if you're a Christian watching us and you know that fornication is evil, you must know what to do to avoid it.
What do we tell the people, especially the youth in church?
The truth is that as far as the feeling is there, and I can't force anybody to do it. But one thing is that if you have that communication with God, He inspires you and He tells you what to do. When you read Psalm 16, the verse 11, He said, teach me how to walk. You teach me so that your presence will fill me up, because at your right side, there is everything I need there. So if you are able to lead the church to know God for themselves, that commitment is there. When He speaks, they know, they feel Him. And when they are doing wrong, they get the caution.
and they are careful with whatever they do.
Thank you so much. Father,
Well said.
the fornication going on in church, what do we do?
Yes, I think before I come to that, I want us to look at counseling that is very indispensable in marriage. If we take it lying down, then of course the future will look very bleak. Marriage is an institution. Before you enter into therefore, you need to be prepared. You can't just go to the university, pay your fees, and after 4 years, say, I am a graduate. You have to go through the process, prepared. And once you are done, then you can hold yourself as a graduate of the particular discipline. Now, marriage is a sacrament, is a vocation, is a calling. From a Christian point of view, it's a calling, there's a vocation, that a gift. And so how do you receive it? But God himself established marriage at the beginning of creation. It is well that man and woman will live together, so the two of them will end well. And so let's not focus, there's what you call the circle of influence and the circle of control. If you focus on that which controls you, definitely that balloons. But if you're looking at the circle of influence, that's how you are able to, there could be at least one reason why that marriage relationship could work. And get your point that people are there. And the churches, how do we journey with them, even beyond marriage? If you're going to be interested in relationships after marriage, I'm sure we'll bring a lot of good to ourselves. And of course, when it comes to fornication, 1 Corinthians 6:18 says that fornication is the only sin that affects the body. So all other sins outside the body, but fornication is a very serious thing. And so it plagues you big time. So it's important that, let me say, do not be afraid to be a saint. Do not be afraid to be a saint. It is possible. So let's together, with the grace of God, work hard and stay out of that.
Okay, thank you. Doctor, please, what do we tell people who are married and having other relationship, from pastor to lawyers to everybody, those who are married and having other extramarital relationship? Advice na yebetimi
We should have the fear of God. We should believe God to be able to help us sustain our homes. And remember, the only way you can live right is having the word of God dwell in you. Then you can do it right and do it well. Otherwise, from your physical point of view, there's nothing you can do. We have to rely on God. The more godliness you carry with you, the more sanctified life you live. And then so many things that happen that are not right before God, we can save them off. And of course, all of us, as we grow in life, our life pattern changes. You get to a place where you realize that you've settled in with God. And certain things that were excesses, you've done that with Him.
Thank you very much for coming. You are watching Revelations. You should understand the process so you will know the potentials. God help us all. Same time next week, Maame Grace will come your way with another episode of Revelations. My name is Maame Grace and I am your host. Follow our social media platforms. Jerome 2020 is Instagram, Facebook, Maame Grace, and YouTube. And so Maame Grace. Same time next week. Thank you for watching.